I have a confession to make. I love gimmicks. I love gimmicks just as much as anyone else does. And when it comes to gimmicks, I'm talking about themed restaurants, themed bars. Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I'm talking about tiki bars. Back in the 50s and the 60s and even into the 70s, themed restaurants, themed bars were a thing. I remember that was a big deal to go to a place that was like a pirate ship or like a Texas steakhouse or like a tiki restaurant. Well, times have changed. Are people still into themed places? Or is that a gimmick that's long gone? Or has the gimmick and interest changed to something completely different? This is what we're going to talk about today on Tiki with Ray. Hey everyone, this is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki with Ray, and welcome to my Tiki bedroom. I like to call it Tiki with Ray's Tiki Hideaway. Today I have a great friend from Seattle. Well, actually you live up in Everett, is that right?
Everett.
And his name is Travis, and he's actually a tiki carver. So welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's be honest.
Okay.
Tiki bars, tiki restaurants, whatever you want to call them,
Okay.
at the end of the day is a themed restaurant. It's a themed bar.
Absolutely.
There's a gimmick,
Yes.
right?
America loves gimmicks.
Yeah.
And have for years.
Absolutely. And why do you think that is the case?
All humans enjoy a good yarn and to be entertained, and I think that goes across all cultures. So when you get here in a country with, P.T. Barnums and Buffalo Bill Cody's and Houdini and people like that, creating a show, creating a restaurant show
Yeah.
is, I don't know, seems logical to me. Try to get Joe Schmo immersed in some sort of area they would never have gotten to experience before.
Interesting.
I mean, that's kind of what immersive experiences kind of boil down to, haunted houses, tiki bars.
It is escapism.
It's absolutely escapism.
Yeah. We live in a time now where like traveling isn't that very big of a deal. You can go and you can buy a plane ticket and you can fly to pretty much anywhere. I mean, to go to like Europe, I've talked to a friend of mine who I think he said he paid like $600 to fly to England.
Yeah.
$600 and now you're over in Europe. It's not that big a deal. You can fly to Hawaii for I think I paid $475 for my ticket to Maui or something like that. Mm-hmm. But when you go back in time to say the 40s and the 50s and stuff like that, people weren't traveling around the world like we are now. They just didn't have the money. They didn't have the means. Hell, even a plane, and the planes were a lot slower. So yeah, maybe you could get on a plane and fly to Hawaii, but it's going to take you, instead of 6 hours from the West Coast, it's going to take more like 10.
Right.
So you had a lot of places and a lot of these exotic locations where if you're the normal person living in, say Nebraska or something like that, or any just any small town or any chances of you actually ever making it to a tropical destination, it just isn't going to happen.
Not unless you join the military.
Unless you join the military, or you had a lot of money.
Right.
If you had an opportunity to go to a place where all right, obviously this isn't Hawaii, but this isn't the Polynesian, but this is the closest thing you're going to get. Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason why a lot of people were turned on to going to a place like Don the Beachcomber or Trader Vic's, because
Oh, absolutely.
Or even a Chinese restaurant. I mean, like a lot of Chinese restaurants are very all-encompassing. The thing I remember going to like my first Chinese restaurant when I was with my aunt who lived in Philadelphia took us. It was me and my family, and it was like it was red and all the. I've never seen anything like this, and I'm like, well, I've never been to China, but I'm guessing this is kind of a little taste of what it is.
Yeah, I've been a fan of immersive experiences ever since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Disney had a lot to do with that when I went to Disney World for the first time when I was 10.
Yep.
But it was not the Enchanted Tiki Room for me. It was the Haunted Mansion.
Interesting.
And
how so?
Because, you went to a little haunted house in your little town carnival or whatever, and it was spooky, but you go to Disney World for the first time, especially as a kid, and you walk through and you're smart enough, you're intelligent enough to know that this whole thing is fake. I mean, from Main Street to Adventureland to, everywhere. Everywhere is been built there to put you in another place. And I sat around and looked at everything, realizing that this looks so real, but it's so not real. It's all a big stage set.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you were impressed with the fact that it was all artificial.
Right.
Is that in and of itself impressive to you? Or do you think that that is some of the reasons why maybe some people really, really love tiki bars? Really, the big tiki bars like the Mai Kai or like the Tonga Room in San Francisco. The fact that like this isn't real, that this is all completely constructed. Is there a fascination in that itself?
I think so. I mean, at least for me, because I like to build things, and so my thought goes into, okay, how did they construct that?
Mm-hmm.
Where did they get that from? Is that something I could do at home?
So what you're saying is it's like people still like themed places. People still like that stuff. But it's just that what the topics are have changed. Instead of it being a tiki / Polynesian tropical getaway, people are looking more towards other things.
I mean, one could say that, absolutely, Chuck E. Cheese or Circus Pizza. Or back in Minnesota, we had a place called Space Aliens, which was another pizza place that was, video games, and all the decor was, UFOs and aliens all over the walls and, in the tables and whatever. People creating themed spaces are just trying to figure out what themes people are interested in. Now,
well, you know what's funny? There was you know what a pop-up bar is, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was a pop-up bar that opened up in Los Angeles where I guess it was supposed to be the Mos Eisley Cantina from Star Wars. And as a Star Wars fan, it's like, sign me up.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it's all about going back to a different time. Hey, let's create a restaurant that looks like it's from the 50s.
Well, various places have done that.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're at a point now where I really feel the future is kind of uncertain for a lot of people. Or we sort of plateaued. We sort of came and done that. The future from the 50s where we're all going to be rolling around in like silver costumes and rolling around in our floating cars just never really happened.
Nor will it probably ever happen.
Probably not.
The way things are going.
But when you think about like it's 2017, things kind of have looked the same since for over the last 15 years or something like that. So I think when people look towards the future, it's like, well, yeah, it's probably going to be the same. So I think people are starting to look back. I think we'll bringing it back to Tiki, since we're in a Tiki revival right now. Tiki's starting to get very, very popular. I think what you need to have you have your decor.
Yes.
So the more elaborate, the more involved your decor is, the more of a unique experience there, the more it's going to have someone come back to your place again. But I think on top of it is the drinks.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to have a place that's really, really cool looking and that makes people want to come back, but if you're making drinks that are that good and that unique that like, hey, I can't get this drink over
Anywhere.
here at this other bar, or let alone even this other tiki bar, that's what's going to have people coming back.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all about having a unique experience that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yes.
And when I think about it, like, I mean, I grew up in the coal region of Pennsylvania, and there was all these, like, there's like this hamburger shop. The place was called Tony's Lunch, and they would make these burgers called Screamers, and it was literally just the burger, bun, cheese, but they had this hot sauce that they would put on it. It's like, but you couldn't get this hot sauce anywhere else.
Right.
So if you wanted this Screamer, this is where you had to go. And they had a monopoly, you know, and I think that's what it comes down to is if you can create an experience that's completely unique. Well, look, think about Disney. You're talking about Disney.
Yep.
There is no other place I know of an amusement park that is like Disney.
No.
That is even that can even come close to that. You were talking about like, oh, gee, I wonder what everyone did, all the people that had to put this all together, that had to build these things. I think people see that. I think people realize that. And I think when you walk into a place like the Mai-Kai in Fort Lauderdale, I mean, like, and I was thinking it myself, it's just like, how'd they go about making this thing? Or even like, why?
Right. Why is a good question sometimes, too.
And
you can stop by many little side-of-the-road tourist attractions in the middle of our country and see the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota or whatever, or the Groundhog Village in western Kansas or something like that. And that's actually part of the fun, is standing there and asking why.
Yep.
And
who would have ever thought that a ball of twine would be the seventh wonder of the world? Well,
right,
the eighth
exactly.
wonder of the world. So I think at the end of the day, you know, people want to have fun. They want to have an experience. They want to have a good time.
The answer is why not?
Yeah, and why not? And with that, Travis, I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And aloha, mahalo, and all that other crap.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, Travis. Well, blah, 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 blah.